Okay, so let's move into one of the side projections. So I'm going to create a new layer and call this side left projection. And we're going to start painting this one here. Again, same thing. I'm going to zoom in so you can see some of the stretching that was happening from the front projection, which is okay. And we're going to clean some of that up right now. So unless you're painting a face that is explicitly built from a real actor, so it was modeled off the real actor, you're going to get discrepancies like this where things don't really line up, especially in the eyes, ears, nose, mouth. So you got to kind of make do with what you got. So there is never going to be, in this case, a perfect way where I can resize the image to fit exactly with the face. So I'm going to just pick and choose areas that are problem areas, like this area here. And I'm just going to line it up so I can get better coverage. Because the eye doesn't match at all, but I'm trying to get that distance between the bridge of the nose and this caruncula so I can get a bit more resolution and detail, like so. Paint this in. And another thing is sometimes some of these images from the front projection, they may be a bit blurred. And the detail gets lost. So when you start projecting from other angles, you'll find that, oh, there's more actual resolution in this image than from the front. So I want to take advantage of that. And move this down a bit. Paint in this area here. I'm going to erase some of the eyebrow there. Come in a little bit more, like so. So we're getting better coverage here on some of those problem areas. And this is a very organic process. You're just going to constantly go back and forth through these projections, trying to find areas that have been stretching or mismatching. But one thing I want to say is that when you're painting skin, especially human skin, color maps are pretty forgiving with regards to fine detail. So don't spend all your time thinking, oh, I've got to make sure every single pore here looks right and it all blends properly, because a lot of that gets washed out and ultimately a lot of that gets blurred. So what you're really focused on with the color maps is that there's no stretching and that the color variation is intact. So we're seeing a lot of cool color variation around the eye, around the cheek, but then this color variation is going a little bit weird. And it's just from that angle and the way it was graded. So this is why I put this on a separate layer, so I can adjust this on the fly later and better match the original, which I will do later. But currently I'm just trying to get full coverage on the rest of the face. So let's continue. Like so. I'm not so worried about stretching at this point for these glance angles down here because I'll clean that up later. And as you can see, there's a real strong discrepancy here between these two projections in terms of color. And as I said before, I'm going for more of this pinker tone. So for now, I'm going to leave this in here, but I'm going to fade some of that back and color correct some of this so it matches a bit better. So you can see it's quite a bit darker down there. So let's clean some of that up now. We'll go through some of these new functions and methodologies. So here's this projection here, and I want to kind of lighten it up and cool it down a bit. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a layer mask. Sorry, I just realized it's clipping off the screen, but when you click this layer mask here, I don't know how far I can go. It's add layer mask, and at the very end there'll be reveal, hide, and from alpha. I'm going to keep reveal on, so it creates a white layer mask. And then I'm going to grab a soft brush and make sure I have white and black. I'm going to go to black, and I'm going to fade some of this back, like so. A bit softer here. So because this is a separate layer, I can easily do this and get it to blend a bit better. Again, I'm not worried about the details so much, because a lot of those details are going to be coming from spec maps and displacement maps. I'm just worried about getting a better blend. I'm happy with that. So now I want to cool some of this area down just slightly. So I'm going to add an adjustment layer, sorry, an adjustment stack, and do a hue saturation levels. I'm going to drag that in here. I'm just looking for actually, you know what? I don't want this one. I actually want a color balance. Delete that. Just looking to bring some more get some of that yellow out. Sorry, some of that red and orange. Tone it down a bit. So it feels pretty good to me. Although there's some saturation issues. So I'm going to go back in here, and this is where these layer adjustments come super handy. I just noticed it's not even in this layer, so I'm going to go back to my layers and go to this one and add a saturation. And I'm going to tone this down. But I just want to do it to a certain section. So I'm going to add another layer mask and hide it. And I want to paint down some of the saturation here. Like so. Right there on the cheek. There we go. Balance is a bit better. And then from here, the tone on the nose here is a little off. So I'm going to go back to my first side projection, add a levels, tone that up a bit. But I just want that area in the nose, so I'm going to do another hide mask and bring it up a bit in the nose here, like so. So as you can see, it's getting a better transition. Really, really awesome on the fly. And again, it's all layer based, so it's all non-destructive. And with that saturation node, I'm actually going to tone down the nose here too. Just slightly. Awesome. So I'm very happy with that coverage there. So as you can see, it's very easy, very fluid to just start building up layers and adding details. Really awesome. So I'm going to continue with this side left projection. And one thing you want to know when you're doing these layer adjustment stacks is that whatever these layers I've done, especially this color balance, this is going to apply real time to the rest of this layer when I start painting. So let me give you an extreme example. So I'm going to go in here and let's do a saturation, extreme saturation example, like so, and say this is the way I wanted this to be for this layer left projection. Now if you notice, if I were to start painting down this face, look at that, it actually real time picks up all those adjustment stacks within this layer and applies it to this paint down image. Now you're thinking, oh, this is, what's useful about this? Well, it's useful if you're working with an image that you've realized on the fly wasn't graded quite right, that it might be a stop too dark, half a stop, quarter stop too dark, and instead of in the past you had to go back in Photoshop and regrade it and stuff and do all that stuff and bring it back in, or in Mari you had to do these constant filter adjustments to the selected image and it saves out repeat images of it, and then you have to delete those, blow those away. It's very cumbersome. Well, now you can do those adjustments to this image. Say you want to do a hue shift, it's going to pick up that hue shift on the fly. So you don't have to worry about regrading things. And that's really, really handy. And it's going to become very useful when you're in situations like this and you've realized your images aren't perfect. So one thing to note. So from here, let's get some of the head. You want to be very cautious of pore size for the head. And the way to keep that in check is just to make sure that the features line up relatively close. So you're maintaining similar pore size, like so. Cool. And again, we can start cleaning that up as well. But I'm really happy with kind of variation here. You're getting some of those veiny blues, and it's going to be a really cool look in the end on the side of the temple versus the cheek and stuff. So it's those serendipitous things. They're really going to add that extra level of realism. So I'm happy with that. Cool. So let's move on to the other side of the face. Side right projection. I like to hide my palettes while I'm painting. You'll notice a little kick in performance when you do that. So I recommend when you start working in more complex scenes, hide your palettes because you're going to find the Mari runs just a tad bit faster. And it's going to save you a lot of headaches in the end. So I want to size this up a bit. like so. As you can see, I'm just trying to lay down some even coverage. That's objective right now. So this is a very quick process to get some really nice coverage very quickly on the face. And sometimes you'll notice, like here, I've just realized that this image here, this left projection, is the best tonal variation of the face. You'll see the front was a bit all over the map with the saturation, but this one's really nice. So I'm going to keep that in mind because I'm going to use this in a lot of different areas of the head, because I know this is the least patchy of them all, and I can use this in the ears and on the scalp and areas, other problem areas. So I'm really happy with that side. So I'm going to keep that in mind. But now at this point, I want to tone it down just slightly for the cheek. So again, I'm going to go into my adjustment stacks. And tone that down ever so slightly. Like so. So that's reading a lot better. And then we can clean up some of the saturation in the other projection in the front. So I already have that in place. Make sure I have white selected. You want to be careful of some of these hot spots in the saturation of the original images, because those are going to cause problems later when you're putting them into shaders, like so. Make sure that's the right. Yeah, so it's in this layer here. So I'm going to just do another saturation adjustment. And hide that. Like so. So already we're getting some really clean coverage of the face. I'm going to go back in here and get some more of this nose on the side. It's an important part. I like that mole there. I love that feature. I'm going to incorporate that. Some nice clean nose textures. Awesome. Great. Nice even coverage there. And then we can clean that up inside the nose later. But for now, I'm going to leave this recording. So from here in the next section, I'm going to show you how we do paint some of the ears, some of the neck, the head, and then I'll show you the final color maps.